You know, some disasters are these massive, sudden explosions. They're over in an instant. But others are quiet, they're relentless, and they just never stop. Today, we're going to talk about one of those, the story of the Lusi mud volcano. It's a man-made geological disaster in Indonesia that has been erupting non-stop for almost 20 years.
I mean, just think about that for a second. How does something go so wrong that it literally breaks the earth for years and years on end, with no solution, no end in sight? It's a question that almost seems to defy logic. To even begin to understand it, we have to go back to the very beginning.
So, the year is 2006. We're in East Java, Indonesia. A company is drilling for natural gas. Everything seems completely normal, just another routine exploration. Nobody there could have possibly imagined that they were about to punch a hole in the earth that would still be bleeding mud today.
All right, so a hole in the earth, the beginning of the end. The company, Lapindo Brontis, was drilling deep down looking for that natural gas. But what they didn't fully account for was what they were drilling into. It wasn't just simple rock. It was something far, far more volatile.
Okay, the best way to picture this is to think of a soda can that's been shaken up for 1,000 years. Deep, deep under the surface, you had ancient water, mud, and gas, all trapped under this incredible, immense pressure. Well, that drill bit, it was basically the can opener. It pierced right into this delicate pressurized system and created the one thing it should never have had, an escape route.
At first, hot, boiling mud just started seeping from the ground near the drill site. You can imagine them thinking, okay, an inconvenience, maybe, but we can contain this. Except they couldn't. The flow just got stronger. Days turned into weeks, and this dawning horror started to set in. This wasn't going to stop.
So as this mud just starts consuming the entire landscape, the search for why this was happening became a massive battle. Was this some freak act of nature, or was it a catastrophic human mistake? The answer to that would decide who is responsible for one of the worst industrial disasters in modern history.
And the cost of that disaster, well, it was just staggering. We're talking about entire villages being completely swallowed by mud. Tens of thousands of people had their lives just uprooted, forced to flee their homes. Roads, schools, factories, everything just vanished under this sea of boiling gray muck. The entire landscape was transformed into this alien, steaming wasteland.
The whole debate really boiled down to two totally different stories. On one side, the company pointed to an earthquake that happened 2 days earlier, hundreds of kilometers away. They said, hey, this was an unpredictable act of God. But on the other side, a growing group of independent geologists said no way. They argued the evidence pointed directly back to that drill site, to a single, man-made hole that broke the seal on a geological pressure cooker.
And over time, as more and more data came in, the scientific community started to form this chilling consensus about what really happened. And honestly, it wasn't what anyone expected.
See, we often think of industrial disasters as these huge, violent events, a sudden blast, a deafening boom. But Lusi, it wasn't like that at all.
And it wasn't a structural failure either, not like a dam breaking or a mine caving in. The ground didn't just give way all at once. It was something much more insidious.
The real truth was that this disaster wasn't a single moment in time. It was a process. That one puncture from the drill created a permanent leak in a system that had been perfectly balanced for eons. It was quiet, it was relentless, and as everyone discovered, it was completely, utterly unstoppable.
And this is where the story gets so much bigger. Lusi isn't just a tragedy for Indonesia. It's a cautionary tale for every single one of us, a lesson that's literally written in millions of tons of mud.
You see, this event isn't some weird anomaly. It's actually a symptom of a much larger pattern, one where our technological ambition often races ahead of our real understanding of the natural world we're trying to tame.
And you see this exact same pattern everywhere once you start looking. Whether we're talking about drilling miles underground, large-scale mining, hydraulic fracturing, fracking, or even deep-sea extraction, we are constantly pushing into these incredibly complex, powerful systems with this underlying assumption that we can manage the consequences. Lusi is just the proof that sometimes we simply can't.
And here's what's maybe the most unsettling part of this whole thing. This disaster wasn't caused by some reckless villain intentionally trying to cause harm. No, it was caused by something much more common, something we see all the time: confidence.
confidence in the calculations, confidence in the safety gear, and this fundamental confidence that nature would just behave exactly as predicted on a spreadsheet.
And that right there is the ultimate takeaway. The story of Lusi is a warning. It tells us that when we push the boundaries of what's possible, we have to do it with a deep, deep respect for what we don't know. Humility isn't a weakness, it's a critical safeguard.
Which really forces us to ask some pretty uncomfortable questions, doesn't it? The Earth isn't some static, predictable machine. It's this dynamic, layered, pressurized system. Do we really truly grasp the delicate balances we are so casually disrupting every single day? And that leads us to the final, critical question. As we continue to drill deeper and push further and further, the issue isn't really whether we can do it. The real question is, when we pry open these doors to forces we barely comprehend, are we actually prepared for what might come roaring out?